Welcome to New Hope Missionary Baptist Church's online Bible study for this Wednesday, the Word for Today. And we're so grateful to God that you could be with us. And our hope and prayer, as always, is that everything is well with you and your family and everything is okay at your home. You know, we have just come off one of the greatest celebrations in the history of the church, where we've celebrated as Christians the resurrection of Jesus. He is risen indeed. And we thank God for the power of resurrection and what it means for each and every one of us. That because Jesus lives, we too have the possibility of brand new life. I mean, that just gets me excited. And we are just so thankful to God that we have a God who would come all the way down and become a man and take on the form of a man and take on the sins of humanity. And not only do that, but die and live a sinless, perfect life and make the ultimate sacrifice for you and for me. So we are in the Gospel of John, and we've been taking a rather leisurely stroll through the book. We've been turning over rocks, looking here and there, finding unique things about this, the fourth gospel. So thank you for joining us. If this is your first time joining us, we want to say thank you for connecting with us. And we hope and pray that as a result that you will get strengthened in your faith. Okay, so we're going to get started. And let me share our bumper. This is uh, our advertisement for our Bible study. And here it is. All right. We have a lot to unpack today. We're in the Gospel of John, chapter number 6. But you know, I love questions. I love icebreakers. I love to kind of get everybody who wants to have an opportunity to sound off, where you can write a comment, that you can interact with us. Okay. So here's our question for our opening question. That's what I like to call it. So let's look at our opening question. What is your favorite kind of bread? What is your favorite kind of bread? Now, my wife knows that I have one favorite kind of bread, and that is biscuits. Oh man, I love biscuits. You know, when I was a little kid, my mom used to make biscuits, and they talk about me because I would come to the table, I'd put one in my lap, I put one in my hand, and then I would start eating on ones. I always had three of them. Uh, kind of hoarding the biscuits. I love biscuits, and my mother would make those biscuits, and man, I tell you, that was like heaven, heaven. So you know, get some butter and put on them biscuits while they were hot, as soon as they came out the oven. And I remember one time my mother's cousin, we went over our house for Thanksgiving. And I love bread, you know, and she was baking yeast rolls. I'll never forget. Those rolls were wafting through the house. The smell was so great. Man, I opened up the oven, stuck my hand in the hot oven, and tried to get a roll, burnt my hand. My mother's cousin, she was just so tickled. She just laughed. It was like the funniest thing that she'd ever seen. I wound up getting the some rolls, and I think she also gave me a silver dollar for that. I mean, she just she, she's the rest of her life. She remembered that instance where, you know, I just stuck my hand in there because I wanted them. It were hot and they smelled good, man. I love bread. Okay, let me see. Elizabeth Jackson says she likes whole wheat bread. Okay, Facebook user, if you can let us know who you are, just write your name in there so we can know who you are. You say you like wheat bread, okay? Ken Carter said biscuits, whole cake biscuits. My. And Deacon Cowell, our chairman, loves yeast rolls. All right, awesome. You know, for me, First Lady, I tell you, I don't need a whole lot. If I get some biscuits, I'm good. Now, I must admit, she likes cornbread. Vera Holmes says she likes 7 grain bread. Uh, First Lady says she likes cornbread. Now she makes some mean scratch cornbread. Okay, and I eat it, but I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for them biscuits. You know. All right, all right. Now, next question is this. I figured, look, why not ask 2 questions kind of related for some of you who maybe don't get a chance to uh, tune in, sound off. Here's a chance that if you didn't, the bread question wasn't good for you. Here's a question that maybe it's a little bit better for you. Okay, what's your favorite restaurant? Okay, and what type of food is your favorite? Okay, what's your favorite restaurant and what type of food? Okay, um, in New Brunswick, there's a soul food place called Deltas. And man, I could go to Deltas every week. They can throw down on some comfort food. I mean, that I like that. Comfort food. Give me some mac and cheese, some candy yams, some collard greens, some string beans. Stuff like that. Okay. Oh, here's one. It said Captain Louis seafood bags. Now that sounds like an interesting place. Now, do they deliver Captain Louis? I gotta write that down. Put that in. Okay. Ken Carter said Red Lobster seafood. Okay. Captain Louis seafood. Oh, that's Dr. Tyler. Okay. Elizabeth Jackson says soul food, collard greens, yams, and fried chicken. You know what? I'm going to have to end this study real quick, and we're going to have to go get us something to eat. Vera likes Vera's Kitchen. Oh, go ahead with it. All right. So this Captain Louis seafood bags are in Fort Lee. Oh man, I got to run up there soon to see that. Okay. Uh, Ruth Chris. Oh, Brother Perry. Yeah. I like that too. Amen. All right. So yeah, that's interesting. Now, our reason why all we talk about food is, of course, we're in John chapter 6. And what's John chapter 6 about more than anything? It's here's another Ruth Chris steakhouse person. Oh, yeah, Ruth Chris they can hurt some steak. Oh my goodness, yes they can. Uh, but John 6 is really about the first part is about Jesus feeding people. One of the great miracles that he does. And so we're going to get into that. John chapter 6, verses 1 to 15. So let's unpack that. Okay. Jesus feeds 5,000. Here it is. Okay. Sometime after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee. That is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on a mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, "It would take more than a half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite." Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up, "Here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how will they go? But how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same thing with the fish. When the disciples had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Wow, what a word. Okay, that is the word for today. Okay, so now to get started, this John chapter 6, just to give you some background, it's really one of those pivotal chapters in the book where we see things begin to change. We see more miracles are going to happen in chapter 6. Jesus is going to start expanding on the I am statements that he makes. He makes 7 I am statements. There are 7 signs in the book of John. And we're going to see all of this begin to expand and explode beginning in chapter number 6. Okay, so this is one of those chapters that you really want to get connected to, because it kind of like expands Jesus' ministry, and we're going to see a lot about that. Okay, so let's look at this. All right. Now, what are the 2 other names for the Sea of Galilee? The Sea of Galilee. What are the 2 other names for the Sea of Galilee? Okay. Anybody want to help us out with that? We're trying to figure out what are the 2 other names for the Sea of Galilee. Well, we heard one of them in our reading. Okay. The Sea of Galilee. I'll let you think about it a minute before we get the answer. But one of the names is in John, the 10th verse that we read earlier. Okay. The Sea of Galilee is also known as, okay, and let's see, what do we get? All right, the Sea of Tiberias. That is right. That's right. And if you can find the other name, that would be great. Tiberias is one of the names for the Sea of Galilee. Anybody else? Elizabeth Jackson got it right. That's right. The Sea of Tiberias. Anybody else? That's it. Hey, everybody's getting Tiberias. But what's the other name? What is the other name? Okay. I'll give you a second to find that. Okay. What is the other name for the Sea of Tiberias or the Sea of Galilee? Kinneret. That is right. Or Gennesaret. Okay. So there are 3 names. If you hear Gennesaret, Galilee, Tiberias, they're really talking about the same place. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something to kind of give you an idea of the scope and the size of the Sea of Galilee. Okay. Let me expand my screen and we'll share this. All right. You can watch this. The Sea of Galilee and Tiberias. You see that? Now, Brenda and I, we were actually on this sea, and I believe it was 2018. We went to Israel in November, and we were on the Sea of Galilee. We actually stayed in the town of Tiberias when we first got to Israel. We stayed in Galilee in Tiberias. But I want you to look at, you can see from one end of the Sea of Galilee to the other. Okay, you see the mountains in the foreground. That shows you that it's not a sea like we think of. It's more like a lake. Okay. All right. So, being on the Sea of Galilee, and we got in a boat that they said was like a replica of the boat that Simon Peter would have had, and we sang songs. How great is our God? We just singing songs with the group, and we just having a great time on the Sea of Galilee. I would suggest anybody who can go. Yeah, we went to December 2018. I still remember when I'm preaching about some of these places. I have a mental picture in my mind of being there, overlooking the area. And when we got to Tiberias, and you can see Tiberias down in the lower left-hand part of your screen, and you can see to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. So we call it a sea, but it's really small. It's really like a lake. Okay, it's not like the Red Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. It's really more a lake. So they call it Lake Gennesaret. They call it the Sea of Tiberias. But this Sea of Galilee flows right into the Jordan River. The Jordan River flows north to south into the Dead Sea. So what happens is Jesus, when he was with his disciples in chapter 6, they're on the populated side. Where you see where it says populated side, on the other side of the Sea of Galilee was desolate. They call that the Decapolis. That where the guy was in the tombs and came out. That was on the what we call the eastern side of Galilee. So the crowd would have followed Jesus from the populated side to the desert side of Galilee. Okay. And so here we go. Okay. So they follow him, and I want to show you this. Kind of like the exact location of this place. Okay. So here, you see Tiberias. If you can see the map, it says Sea of Galilee, the letter A, and right above that is Tiberias. That's where Jesus would have been, in that area. And they goes across the lake. Okay, he goes across the lake and he starts preaching. And there are 5,000 men. Now, this is interesting because the Bible says, there's Brendan and I, we're on the Sea of Galilee, just right there on the boat, and we just enjoying it. It's like watching the Gospels come alive when you know that you're on this sea where Peter fished, where Jesus calmed the raging storm, and you're right there, and you're like, my goodness, my goodness. And so we just took this long leisurely boat ride on the Sea of Galilee, and been able to see the mountains in the distance. And actually, from where we were sitting, we could actually see the other side of the Sea of Galilee. So it wasn't huge, but it's certainly packed with all kind of history. Okay. All right. So there we are. Okay. Now, let me give you some of this is a video I took on the Sea of Galilee. Here it is. Yeah, look at that. Those calm waters. But they told us, the guide even told us that because this Sea of Galilee was like down, it looks like a sugar bowl, that the winds would whip up across the water in a moment and cause a squall, cause a terrible violent storm that would cause people to actually fear for their lives. And they didn't know when they were coming. They would just happen. Okay. All right. So that's that. Okay. Now, here's a question for you. How many miracles of Jesus are in all four of the Gospels? How many miracles of Jesus are in all four of the Gospels? Now, we talk about the Gospels, we mean Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So we want to find out how many miracles of Jesus are recorded in all four Gospels. Okay, I'll wait for you to put an answer down there. You can post a comment, and we're not gonna shame nobody. We all learners, okay? So what do you think? How many miracles of Jesus are in all four of the gospels? Okay. All right. I'll let you think about that for a minute, because this is one of those miracles, and we'll get to it in a minute. That is really one of the things that defines Jesus' ministry. People talk about, when they talk about Jesus' ministry, it's not long before they talk about this miracle. We're going to find out why in a minute. But the question is, okay, we got a 7. Okay. We got a 3. Okay. We got a 7. We got a 3. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? How many miracles of Jesus are in all four of the gospels? Okay. Elizabeth Jackson says 1. Okay. Anybody else? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Sold to Elizabeth Jackson. Just 1. Now, that is if we don't count the resurrection. Okay. But the miracles that Jesus performed, only one of them is found in all four of the gospels. And that miracle is Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Now, when we say he fed 5,000, the other writers are quick to tell us, and you might want to copy this. If you want to take a picture of this screen, let me make it bigger. You might want to take a picture of this. It's in Matthew chapter 14, Mark 6, Luke 9, and John 6. What the other writers tell us is that Jesus does this miracle, and it's 5,000 men. 5,000 men. All right. Now, y'all got to realize Google is not the best source in the world. Okay. My professor would be like, never quote Google. Yeah, Google is and we said all four of the gospels. Okay. So this is the miracle that Jesus does that shows up in all of the gospels. Okay. All right, so it's in Matthew 14, Mark 6, Luke 9, John 6. Okay, all right. And so what we have is that this miracle is so amazing that basically it kind of puts Jesus on the map, because nobody's ever done that before. Okay, nobody's ever done a miracle like that before. Okay, now Jesus says when he sees these people, and if you read the other gospels, Jesus is kind of frustrated with the people, with his disciples, because they come to Jesus and they say, Jesus, you preach too long. You brought us out here in this desolate place. There's nothing to eat. And they blame Jesus. And what Jesus says in the other gospels is, you feed them. You take care of this. Okay. And then he turns to Philip. Okay, and let's look at that when he turns to Philip. That would be what? I think that's verse 7 or 8. When he turns to Philip, let's see if we can get that. Verse 5. Let's see this. It says, when Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, where shall we buy bread for these people to eat? Now, some people question, why did he say that to Philip? Okay, why didn't he say it to somebody else? Well, there is some hint, and we're not 100% sure, but there are some hints about why he would have called out Philip. And one of the reasons that he may have called out Philip is this, and I'll show you in a second. Okay, is because when they came to Philip, Philip was from Bethsaida of Galilee. Okay, and in John chapter 12, verse 21, some people came to Jesus and said to Philip, we want to see Jesus. And they went to Philip. One of the things, when we looked earlier at the maps, we found out that when it came to Bethsaida, that Bethsaida was right in the same area where they were, this desolate area. So maybe it could be that Jesus is saying to the disciple, to Philip, you from around here, Where's the Walmart? Where is the where's the Acme? Where's the ShopRite? Where is the you know the the Piggly Wiggly? Where can we buy food? And perhaps it's because Philip was from the region, and so he asked Philip, tell us where. Okay, so let me see if I can show you this. Okay, so you see Bethsaida, right? Bethsaida is right real close to the desolate side. That's where Philip was from. So maybe, could be Jesus is saying, hey, homeboy, where can we get food? But we also know that according to John, that Jesus really wasn't asking him this for him to provide food, because Jesus already had a plan. Okay. And the plan that Jesus has is he's going to step in and he's going to take care of the situation. Okay. So this ought to be instructive for all of us, because sometimes we forget that Jesus has all kind of power. Okay. Now, so here's the question. If you were going to be grading, okay, you the teacher today, what kind of grade would you give Philip? Okay. Jesus said, Philip, we have to feed these people. Philip turns to Jesus and said, Jesus, it would take a half a year's salary to give these people just one bite of food. Forget feeding them until they get full. It would take a half a year's salary, a worker at minimum wage. It would take his whole yearly salary, half of it, to pay for food to buy to feed these people. So what kind of grade would you give Philip? If you're grading, come on now. I got some teachers on here. I got some educators. Well, how would you grade Philip? Okay, we got Tasha says she would give him a B. All right. All right. Oh, Betty Gilliard, you're a lenient grader. Oh my goodness. I wish I had you for an instructor. You would give Philip an A? Oh my goodness. Maybe I'm just too harsh. I'll probably be flunking Philip. I'll be like, Philip, you've been with Jesus all this time and you don't know him? Okay. Look, Jesus says, Vera says, give him a C because he has no faith. Okay. Now, think about this. You're Jesus, and you just asked your disciple, where can we get food? A great answer might have been, oh Lord, you know. Jesus is in your hand. I mean, it's not like Philip and all these guys hadn't seen Jesus do miracles. It wasn't like they hadn't seen him raise people from the dead, open blinded eyes, unstop deaf ears. It's not like they hadn't been on that same Sea of Galilee and see him talk to the wind and the wave and say, peace, be still. But yet when Jesus asked Philip, what should we do? Philip like, we don't have enough money. A lot of times we look at Jesus. Jesus said, I want you to do X. And the first thing we say is, well, I don't have that skill set. Now, you've got to understand that if Jesus asks you to do it, he already knows what ability you have. He already knows what you can do. Okay? He already knows. Now, so I would give Philip, I'll give him I'll probably give him a C. He comes up with an answer, right? But it's not the best answer. He's not depending on Jesus's power. He's not having faith in Jesus. He's just saying, Jesus, I looked at the situation. We don't have enough money to feed this crowd. There ain't even a store open. And he never says, Jesus, you have the power. Just thinking, okay? Just thinking. I'm just saying, if I was grading, okay? Let's see. So he did his calculation, even though Jesus had a plan. Okay. Okay. So he calculates, and isn't that what we do? We calculate and we say, I don't think it's possible. And that's what this miracle is all about. It's about looking at man's understanding the possibility and looking at what Jesus can do. Jesus already knew what he was going to do. He just called out Philip and said, Philip, and he could have called out anybody. And good teachers know that every now and then, if you're going to be a good teacher, you got to call your students out. You got to call them out and say, hey, you stand up and recite this. Hey, you, what are you thinking? And he goes to Philip and say, Philip, what should we do? And Philip say, well, it looks pretty bleak. We ain't got that kind of money in the treasury. You know, we can't buy, it would take a whole lot of money just give these people one morsel to bite. Okay. All right. Now, what kind of grade do you give Andrew? All right. We just graded Philip. Okay. What kind of grade you going to give Andrew? Okay. Let me see. Let's see about giving Andrew a grade, because Andrew, remember Andrew, let's see. Andrew comes and he has a, yeah, here it is. Another of his disciples, Andrew, who's Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. Here's a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many? So how would you grade Andrew? Now, Philip basically said it's not possible. So how would you grade Andrew? Somebody gave him an A. Boy, I tell you, I wish I had y'all for teachers. Oh my goodness. Okay. Carter. Let me see. I'm trying to figure out. Okay. Dr. Tyler, give him a B. Okay. He tried to solve it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Elizabeth Jackson says give him a B. At least he went looking for something to eat. That's a good point. Good point. For thinking outside the box, Kenneth Carter says, I'll give him a B. And not a bad point. Not a bad point. Okay. You know, at least we can say about Andrew, is as opposed to Philip offered no solution. Philip just said it's not possible. Andrew says, I spent scouring the crowd and this is all I could find. But what is this little bit? 2 fish, 5 loaves among so many people. Okay. So Brenda Perry says C, because he's thinking like us. Okay. Yeah. And so at least he's thinking. Okay. C for effort, but little faith, right? So as you can see, these guys, they kind of yeah. Interesting. Okay, so now here's the question. Why did Jesus, okay, let's think about this. Why did Jesus want to test the disciples? Why not just go do the miracle, let them watch and be amazed? Why do you think he wanted to test them? Okay, think about that. Why? Okay. So you said you gave him a C because he was thinking like us, only looking at what was in front of him. Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so why did Jesus want to test his disciples? Because he said this is a test. He knew what he was going to do, but he asked Philip anyway. Okay, why did he do that? Okay, to see what they would do. Okay. Better get you out to check their belief in him. Okay. Now, here's the next question. Y'all ready for this? What kind of grade do you give yourself? What kind of grade do you give you? Okay. So you said he did this to measure their faith. Okay. So we graded Philip and we graded Andrew. Now, what kind of grade you going to give yourself? Tasha's going to give herself an A. She's very generous grading. Ken Carter said he's going to give himself a C. Dr. Tyler says it depends. Depends on what, right? Elizabeth Jackson going to get, boy, y'all giving y'all some high marks today. Oh, my, y'all got great faith. Oh my. So you imagine if Jesus was here among you, he would never say to you, where's your faith? He would never say, oh, you of little faith. He would say, you always trust me. You always get this thing right. Okay. Brenda Perry says she'd give herself a C. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we got the wide continuum. We got people giving themselves from A's to C. Well, I can't argue with you on that. You feel like you merit an A, that's on you. But look, Jesus did not give Philip an A. And he even told us that he only asked him this because he knew what he was going to do. And sometimes Jesus will put us in situations, ask tough questions of us, already knowing what the answer is, just to see what it is that we're going to do. Sometimes we call that the trying of our faith. Okay? Okay, we got an LOL. All right. You see that? All right. Okay. So let's look at this. All right. So here we go. Now, if you get ready to eat lunch, here's what it might have looked like. 2 fish and some loaves. Okay. This is not like Wonder Bread. This is not like Arnold's bread or some bread you might get in the store today. This is bread that would have been baked at home. This kid would have probably had it in a sack or something to carry it. And he's been out there a long time. There's no refrigeration. Okay. So it might have been a smelly lunch. Maybe that he got so caught up in what Jesus was talking about that he forgot to eat. And so when they scoured this crowd of 5,000 men, beside women and children, and most scholars suggest that it was at least between 15 and 20,000 people who would have partaken of this miracle, because that's not counting the women and the children. It's just 5,000 men. Okay. So what they're able to find are some fish and some loaves. Okay. Somebody said not very appetizing, but if you're hungry, I'm telling you, this stuff looked pretty good. These fish may have been salted. Okay. They may have been cooked. My mother-in-law, my late mother-in-law, used to like cooking fish with the head on them. I don't want to see nothing. I do not want to see the fish's head. No. I like some whiting, but no, take the head off, fillet them, clean them up, and then fry them. Then I eat them. Okay. All right. So here they are. So this mother sends her son out and packs a lunch for him, and he's the only one that got food. And Andrew says, "What is this among so many?" So Dr. Tyler said her grandmother did the same thing, cooked the fish with the head on her. Okay, nothing. Looking back, Elizabeth John says she don't want nothing looking back at her, nor do I. Okay, so there it is. Okay. Now I want you to look at verse 11. Jesus gave them as much as they wanted. Question: does Jesus give us as much as we want? Okay. Okay. Does Jesus give us as much as we want? He gave them as much as they wanted. And it's an amazing thing about this miracle, that this miracle satisfies everybody. Not only did the people get satisfied, but the disciples got satisfied. Okay. They all ate. Okay. So somebody said the sky's the limit. Okay. Now, do we act like Jesus gives us as much as we want? Some of us act like, but he'll give us what we need, right? Uh, we just take the mile, okay? All right. So look here. Jesus then took the loaves, and he does what Jesus does. Remember when on the way to Emmaus after the resurrection, they constrained him to stay with them. And it was in the breaking of the bread, in the blessing of the bread, giving thanks, that their eyes became opened. This is a thing that Jesus always did. Even though he was God, he still blessed his food. Okay. There are times when, as believers, you got people watching you. What do you do when you get ready to eat? Do you bow your head in the word of prayer, or you just dive in? People watch you. People look at you. In our small group Sunday, Miss Carter was talking about how students would come over to her and talk to her because when she got ready to eat, she would say her grace, you know, and think about it. This is what Jesus does. He has 2 fish and 5 loaves, but he pauses to give God thanks. And that's not for him, that's for the benefit of the people who are watching him, so that they know where this power source has come from. He thanks God, okay? So he prays, okay? And so we got to realize that if we're in public, if we're at home, wherever, it's not going to hurt us to take a minute, 45 seconds, 2 minutes to pause and say, Lord, I thank you for this food, and we should do that. We should be in the habit of blessing our food. So he gave thanks, and then he distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. Remember, Jesus told the disciples in Matthew's gospel, make them sit down. Now, this is an amazing story when you start piecing together all of what happens. Jesus says to his disciples, y'all don't have no food. Y'all criticizing me because this is a desolate place that I preached too long, and that these folk, y'all just want to send them away. Jesus said, y'all don't have compassion. And what Jesus told his disciples, y'all cannot do anything. Make the people sit down. He made the disciples made them sit down in groups of 50s and 100s. And they brought order to an orderless situation. Before he gave out the food, he said, y'all bring order to this. Sit them down in groups that are manageable. And then he began to distribute the food. Okay? Now, he did the same thing with the fish. He blessed it, and then he started pulling it apart and started distributing it. And more he pulled apart, the more there was. And so he would give it to disciples, and they would go out and they give it. And it's like the fish never exhausted, the bread never exhausted. And not only that, everybody was able to get full. Okay? It's amazing. In our day, people would probably be complaining. They want gluten-free. They want this. They want tartar sauce. They want hot sauce. They want the other. But they're all satisfied. Every person there has had their full. Okay? And that's fascinating when you think about it. Okay? So now, verse 12. What's the enduring principle behind verse 12? Okay? What do we learn about God, and what is the application for us? Here's verse 12. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted. Okay? So here's the question. What's the enduring principle behind the verse? Okay? What do we learn about God, and what's the application? Okay, let's see. Anybody want to take an effort at that? So here's the principle. Check this out. When they all had enough to eat, Jesus says, gather the pieces that are left over. He does not want them to leave fragments behind. That is amazing. Okay, because what they are seeing in front of them is a miracle where there is more left over than they began with. That they began with 2 fish and 5 loaves, and that when it is finished, they have more leftovers than what they started with. It defies math. It defies understanding. Okay. Okay. Somebody said we learn. Okay. Let me see. Waste not, want not. That's a nice little proverb. That's good. We learn about God in the Bible. Okay. Okay. Well, we learn that God doesn't waste stuff. Okay. That he is a God who has a plan. And understand this, that he doesn't want the disciples to miss this blessing, to miss this miracle. Okay. All right. And so he wants them to recognize that they have a miraculous source of blessing. So check this out before we go. Okay. Any theories to why Jesus worked it out to have 12 baskets of leftovers? Any theories about why Jesus worked it out so there would be 12 baskets that are left over? Okay. Look at verse. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. Why 12? All right, good point. 12 disciples. And maybe it is that each disciple now has a container of remnants, of leftovers, that he can't deny that this is a miracle that is over material stuff. I mean, if you stood there and you watched 2 fish and 5 loaves, and then when he was finished, there were 12 containers left, a container for each disciple that they couldn't argue with, that they could not deny. Okay. And we're going to find out later on when we get in the book of John that they take these baskets, these scraps, these leftovers, and they put them in the boat. But Jesus says to them later on that they did not understand the miracle of the loaves. So when they got the evidence on the boat with them that Jesus has power over nature, has power over the material things, but yet when trouble comes, they don't even look at the remnants that they have. They become afraid because they don't believe Jesus can handle it. But he said, take along the remnants, get in the boat with the containers. And that ought to be a strong testimony to anybody that if God allows you to pick up your bed and walk, if he allows you to take whatever you have and have more left over, that he will indeed supply all of your needs according to his riches and glory. Okay. So they all right. So that they wouldn't get hungry again. Okay. Now look, this is an amazing testimony. You cannot deny the fact that there are 12 containers left. Okay. We don't know how big the containers are, but we know that there's more left over than we started with. We started with 2 fish, 5 loaves, and now we got 12 containers left. Every disciple has their own container. And you can't argue with that. Okay. All right. Now, 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 42 to 44. You might want to read this because the Bible talks about in the Old Testament about what people did with things that were left over. So you might want to just grab that, write that scripture down and read it. I don't have enough time to go through it right now. Now, here's our parting question. How has following Jesus satisfied you? Or are you full? Or, as Tasha says, are you hungry again? How has following Jesus satisfied you? And while you're thinking about that, if you have any prayer requests, just drop them in the comment field below. But the question is, how is following Jesus satisfied you? Now we know about the crowd, that not only was the people satisfied, but the disciples, everybody who wanted to eat, ate until they were full. Okay? Okay. So Dr. Tyler says, I have a better life than before following him. Elizabeth Jackson says, I'm still being filled. Okay. That's the story of the loaves. That's the story of the fish, that God satisfies, and he knows what you and I need. And he has the ability to materialize and cause things to happen from nothing. We think that, I got to bring something to Jesus. If there had been no fish, it wouldn't have precluded Jesus from doing the miracle. He just used what they gave him. Okay. All right. As Facebook say, I'm learning that he loves me more than I love myself. All right. That's great. We got that. All right. All right. So that's that. Okay. So anybody got a prayer request? If you do, would you just put it in the comment field? We would like to pray for you. Okay. So how has following Jesus satisfied you? Tasha says, by listening to him. Thank you so much for that. Okay. Anybody else before we go? Let's bow our heads in the word of prayer. Lord, there are many things about tomorrow that, frankly, I don't understand. But I'm glad I know that you hold tomorrow and that you hold my hand. And so on this afternoon, I want to say thank you for allowing us to have this word for the day. And Lord, we come to lift up those who are going through tough times, those who are feeling pain in their body, those who have loved ones who are sick right around them, and maybe they're sick themselves. I'm praying for Tasha Wright and praying for her family, that you would bless them. And not only her family, Lord, but all of us who are on this call, all who will call in, who will watch this sometime future, would you bless them? Would you help us to learn the story of the fish and the loaves, that because you are compassionate, because you care about us, that you feed us, you watch over us, and you keep us. So God, bless us now. Bless those who are just don't know what to do or where to turn. So I'm praying for your grace, that you would give it to each and every one of us. Wherever we are, I pray that you would just meet us at our points of need. Bless those who are sick. Bless those who are at the end of their rope. Bless that person who needs you to show up in their life in a miraculous way. And Jesus, because you did it before, we believe that you'll do it again. So we just want to pause and say thank you for the miracle of the fish and the loaves. And would you continue to feed us until we want no more? This is our prayer we ask in Jesus' name. Now listen, my brothers and sisters, before I go, I want to let you know that we are really thinking about in New Hope about what it would look like for us to go back into our sanctuary. And we're going to have a meeting and we're going to invite you to come on April the 20th. It's a Tuesday night. We're going to put it out on all of our platforms. We want you to come and be a part. We want to hear from you. We want to listen to you. But we believe that God is now getting things ready for us to get closer to going back. But we don't want to do anything until we hear from you. Okay? So we're going to let you know that we'll put the information out. It'll be a giant Zoom call where you can get on and you can voice your opinion. You can hear the plans that we have. And we have been working. We have been diligent, making sure that we're doing everything that we ought to do to make sure that everything is safe for you and your family. So again, God bless you. Heaven smile upon you, and may God grant you his Peace.